Good morning, Mortgage Coach community. Welcome to another Tuesday morning interview. Got an amazing call today. I've done quite a bit of prep, spoken to all the different leaders that we're going to have on it. Again, every single Tuesday we get here to learn how to be better teachers, how to serve families at a higher level, and how to serve the realtors and the referral partners that we have by providing insight and information. Today I am recording this live actually in my hotel room. I've been at the MBA secondary event. It's always great to connect with the leadership that's building the future of our industry. This was in my room yesterday. This is the Housing Wire magazine of the month, and check it out, Digital Disruption. Borrowers pushing lenders to the new normal. Love the headline. Obviously, everybody on Mortgage Coach, everybody that's using Mortgage Coach, you're already ahead of 95% of the lenders in the country, so it's a good time to be a mortgage coach. So let's get started with who we're going to have on today's call. Got my good friend Tim Braheem. Tim, welcome to the call, brother.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks, and good afternoon to those on the East Coast. And Dave, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. So Tim and I are going to be doing a top producer interview today. I think many of you probably have noticed we have started what we're calling the Mortgage Coach Top 100. So we've had well over 100 folks submit their production numbers, but I'd really like to, when we have 10,000 plus loan officers on the Mortgage Coach platform, we'd really love to have, 500, 1,000 top producers submit their numbers. So if you haven't, please do. It's really an honor to interview Caleb LeGrand for the very first time, producing branch manager with Benchmark Mortgage. Welcome to the call, Caleb.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew it, but you are absolutely one of the top 100 loan officers in the Mortgage Coach community. And I do know you know this. You have done over 1,000, actually over 1,200 TCAs, total cost analysis. What I thought was really interesting, and I don't know what it means, but when I was putting the finishing touches on this slide and putting in the 1,000 TCA club, I literally got a Facebook PM private message from a Mortgage Coach loan officer, Kevin Martini. This came in through Facebook. We were talking about Facebook before the call, but he literally hit his 1,000 Mortgage Coach TCAs today. So I thought that was kind of cool. So if you haven't already, please fill out the Mortgage Coach Top 100 so that you can join the list of these top performers and a lot of others. So to kick off the next 10 minutes or so of the call, we're going to have Steve Harney jump in. As you guys know, every single month Steve comes in. He provides us with a preview of his Bridge Builder Insights. These slides are available in the GoToWebinar control panel. So all the slides that Steve's going to be going through, you can download those and put them in your PowerPoint. This is just a sample of what Steve does on a monthly basis. And so, Steve, I hand it off to you to walk us through your insights and add value.
Okay, fair enough, David. As soon as I see my little thing pop up saying that we're on, I'll go ahead and make the switch. There we go.
Yeah,
show
no
my
problem.
screen. Just let me know when you see my screen so I know that I'm going forward.
I will let you know. There it is. We see it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, Dave, to be on the call, especially a call with Caleb and Tim, two icons in the business. And I really, really appreciate the fact that there's so many people in the Mortgage Coach family that help so many people. That's really what we're all about right now. But I'm going to talk a little bit about not just helping the client, but helping your agent right now, because your agents are going to need help. Your realtor partners are going to need help right now. And let me tell you why. There's a lot of talk right now about, what's happening in the economy and what is that going to do to housing. And in a presidential election, that type of talk very easily can turn to fear, because everything is negative. Each side, whether you're on one side of the aisle, the other side of the aisle, is blaming the other side for something. And they're not, giving any credit back and forth across during an election year. What they are doing is placing blame. And all that blame means there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of negative headlines out there. And that's creating fear. Fear will turn into, that insecurity, that uncertainness, all right, and that can turn into paralysis. So in a year where we're kicked off the year really, really well, what I'm a little bit afraid of is some of the negative headlines we're seeing and some of the negative feelings that people are having right now are going to make what's taking place in the economy have an impact on housing. So let me tell you a little bit where I see these things going. Everyone likes to talk about 7-year turns. You know, every 7 years we have some sort of recession or some sort of downturn. Well, I think that the economy right now is kind of like the Republican primary was. It's like nothing in history ever before. I see us in 5-year pivots. We had the 5-year pivot between 2001 and 2005 that we saw almost an unprecedented boom in housing. Then, of course, we had the correction. And from the 5 years since 2010 to 2015, from 11 to 15, we have a very slow recovery in housing. What I'm projecting.
Hey, did you guys lose Steve, or is it just me?
No, it's not just you.
I lost him too.
Thought maybe it was just me, but it makes me feel comforted that you're both there.
So, Steve, if you can hear us, when you come back, let us know that you're on the call. And then, Marcy, if you could email Steve on the backside, let's try to get him back into the call. Sound good, Marcy? All right, and I am going to call an audible. It's a good thing that Steve said I am going to be on the entire call. So, Tim, let's start the interview with Caleb, and then if Steve comes back in, we'll bring these insights to you. And everybody on the call, just a reminder that all the slides have been put in the handout section, and we will do everything we can to get Steve back onto the call so he can provide some color around what they have. Sound good? So folks, I don't know that Tim needs a tremendous introduction. I do want to do a few reminders. Tim and I did this call. I don't know. It's been years since we did the Tim Braheem's, perfect loan process. He really integrated how he used total cost analysis, how he coaches clients. I'm sure this is updated quite a bit, over the years, but I still think this is one of the best all-time mortgage coach videos. So it's in our all-time training list. It's been watched over 2,100 times. And if you're on this call and you've not watched this about 35-minute highlight on Tim and I going through his perfect process, it's a must-watch for everybody. Last time, Tim, you and I did this, we had John Weller on the call. I don't know if you remember that, but I know he's one of your friends and one of your coaching clients. Yep. So again, another mortgage coach top 100. Today, it's all about Caleb. So Tim, I'm going to have you kick it off with Caleb. Ask the first 3 or 4 questions. Give me a chance to add some color, and we'll start it off at a high level of this coach-mentor relationship that you guys have, and then we'll close out the interview with some mortgage coach insights. And if Steve Harney gets back in, we'll bring him back into the calls to provide some insights at the halfway mark.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, and Caleb, it's awesome to do this with you, man. It's always cool for me. I should establish that I consider all my clients to be my friends, and I get to know them really well, and I've gotten to know Caleb really well over the last 2.5 years, and you guys are just in for a treat. He's just a really terrific loan originator and a great guy. So I'll just dive right in. Caleb, when we met, a little more than 2.5 years ago now, I guess, and it's probably coming up on 3 years, and we first started talking about you and I working together. You were doing, 16 to 18 loans pretty consistently a month. This past month, I think you funded somewhere around 32 or 33. Next month, you're on target to fund 41, I believe. You're kind of consistently now a low to mid-30s month in and month out producer in a 2.5-year stretch. That's a big jump. Tell us what you think the single biggest reason is for the huge increase that you've had in the last couple of years.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the call. It's obviously an honor, and a lot of it had to do with my enrollment in the Leadership 360 program. I had a perfect loan process that I thought was pretty strong going into that, but getting that one-on-one attention and then getting into the mastermind group and being able to bounce ideas off of other really top producers gave me a lot of clarity into really focusing the efforts of our perfect loan process to make it what it really needs to be for the current environment, for the current market. So I would say the biggest single reason, which that's always a difficult question to answer, because I don't think there's any one singular thing that you can say, hey, this is what led to all of the success. I think it's a lot of little things that compound up to that, but one of the biggest things was building out a team that was passionate and committed to providing an amazing experience to our clients, to our partners, and really focusing on the systems and operation that go into our version of that perfect loan process, because I firmly believe the current market is not one of being a salesperson. I think it's coming at it from an educational standpoint, and fine-tuning and focusing on operations to execute and deliver is what's going to be the keys moving forward as we continue to see the mortgage business evolve.
Yeah, Craig Strent's going to be doing a presentation in June in Las Vegas on kind of very much that subject matter, how going forward the separating factor is going to be knowledge and the experience. And the customer service platform that everyone's providing is the one thing, or one of the things, one of two things that can really separate you from technology. Being able to provide that real customized, personalized touch. And I know that for you, Caleb, you're not any different than any other loan originator in the sense that you're very much passionate about making sure that your reputation is not tarnished, especially in the realtor community. And just for everyone's edification, we're not talking about a loan originator here who does a ton of refis. In fact, what percentage of those, say 30 to 35 units a month are purchase versus refi, Caleb?
So our 24-month running average for 89.99% purchase business. So, I mean, we're basically 90% purchase and only 10% refi.
And for everybody's knowledge, this is a guy who knows his numbers better than anybody that I've ever coached. I mean, I could ask him statistically just about anything, and he has it at his fingertips, which I think is a really important footnote. So, okay, so 90% purchase business. So you've got a lot of real estate agents who, have put their clients in your hands. Your reputation is really important to you. How critical would you say, because I think that when you were doing the 16, 18 units, there was some fear of letting go. And that fear was probably holding you back from, I'm being nice, there was a lot of fear. That fear of letting go was holding you back from really being able to have the lion's share of your week devoted towards originating loans. So talk to the originator who's out there that is too involved in their files, that still defines the end of the month as being a hectic and crazy time, which I've always maintained is kind of a strange thing, because if the end of the month is hectic and crazy for you, that means you're processing. It really shouldn't be any different for you than the 13th of the month unless you're too entrenched in your files. Talk to the originator about that right now that's listening, about how to make that transition and getting out of your files and getting more focused on working within your genius zone and your competencies.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I'm just going to speak from my own experience here, and if it lands with some people, that's great. If it doesn't, that's cool too. But I mean, that was one of the biggest challenges and struggles I had, because I started in '06, and you build it with blood, sweat, and tears, one loan at a time, scrapping for every deal you can get. You take those turn downs from other LOs, you work them, you get an approval, and you build your business from that reputation. So giving someone else on your team the ability to step in and take responsibility for that was a very scary thing for me, because it came from control, which came from the fear of them tarnishing that reputation. Because I think that's ultimately what it is at the end of the day that you have. I mean, you're known for your service, your deliverability, which is your reputation in the industry. So what that took was a lot of work with you and Julie, one of the other coaches for Leadership 360, and just really kind of drilling down on, okay, what's the worst that could happen? And when you kind of just look at it in the eye and go, okay, all of those are fixable things, is it really going to be that horrible? It really wasn't as scary when you broke it down to that lowest common denominator, and then just moving forward from there of, okay, if that's really what could happen, then let's try to put processes and systems in place, and then just really make sure that the people that you're turning everything over feel like they have the necessary information and control to make the decisions. One of the things I've really been trying to get really, really clear on, and this is one of the things that obviously has fed to the increase in production, is I'm going to focus on those two things that I'm really good at. I'm going to surround myself with my team and my partners, because I really don't view them as employees or anything like that. They're truly partners in what I'm doing. and letting them have what they need to shine and do what they do much better than I do at this point. So a lot of it was just letting ego get out of the way too, and realizing they are much better at this and will take much better care of our clients and our referral partners than I will. I need to let them shine, and then I need to go get really clear on those 2 or 3 things that I do really, really well, and just rinse and repeat that as much as I can in a week, so that I'm feeding the beast, so to speak, of having my partners come in and do everything else behind the scenes and in front of the scenes for some of them to continue to push that loan through the finish line.
So let me go on a little different direction now, because I'm kind of sensing that if I'm putting myself in the shoes of the listener and asking myself, okay, what questions would I be asking right now? So, all right, you've made this transition to where you've grown your team, you've started to surrender more in trust, you've started to really make your job description more finite, which is just talking to people who need to borrow money and people who can refer you to people that need to borrow money, the old cliche. And yet, some people have to be sitting there listening going, yeah, but you know what, I don't have a good team. And I know your team. I mean, those of you that would be interested in hearing, from his team, you can go to my website, and in our archive of interviews, I've got a 90-minute interview with Caleb and his team that's really dynamite. I know your team, and I know that you have built an extraordinary team, and I know that one of the things that you're focusing on right now in our master's program is really cultivating and evolving your leadership skills. So talk to the listener about what you did to build such a rock-solid team. And before you do, I just want to share this with everybody. That team loves him. I mean, loves this man. Like, I mean, they will go to war with him, and I think that there is a very specific reason for it. Maybe you can speak to that too. So how did you build the team, and how did you develop such loyalty from them?
So a lot of that came from, and I don't want to sound negative, you know, coming out of an accounting background, my experience in corporate America wasn't that great. And I swore to myself, if I ever had the opportunity to lead a team, that I would do things differently. And by the grace of God, I've been given that opportunity to do this. So I don't see leadership as this authoritative top-down, you will go do this and you will go do this. It really is coming at it from a servant standpoint. And so all I've really tried to focus on is my team is my first and most important client. So they come before any referral partners, they come before any clients. So really making sure the experience that they have is as amazing as I can make it. So making sure that they're in a place where they feel safe, they feel supported, they feel that they had everything they need to do their jobs with absolute excellence. Because if you will take care of them first, what will happen is they will in turn give that to your clients and give that to your referral partners. Happy people will yield happy results. And so I've tried very much to make sure I'm giving them that environment in which they have everything they need, they feel very supported. And what's been really neat and really a lot of fun for me is we've grown pretty quickly. I mean, Kelly's been with me for going on 6 years now, and then a year after that I hired Sandra, and she's been with me for 5 years now. And then a year later I hired Nikki, she's been with me for 4 years now. Then a year after that we hired Amanda, she's been with me for 3 years now. And then we added 2 last year with Samantha and Melissa, and they're coming up on their 1-year mark. But the quality of the people has just been phenomenal, and they've just been attracted to, you know, hey, good people want to work with other good people. If you really look at it, at the end of the day, nobody wants to be involved with somebody who's not pulling their weight or is not on the top of their game. And if you can attract that level of talent, one, it'll never cost you money. You know, if there's anything I can say that moved the bottom line the most, it was adding another solid team partner. Every time I've done that, it's been a 15 to 30% increase to the bottom line. So I firmly believe A, players don't cost you money, they make you money, and you should go hire the best person you can find. Because if you do that and you give them that environment with which to grow, and the rest truly will take care of itself. That also helps, from circling back to the original question of the control and the fear, having people of that caliber makes it really easy for somebody like myself who's a raging control freak. Like, that's my initial reaction when things don't go well, is to jump back in and go, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to get in here, I'm going to roll up my sleeves, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to outwork and out-hustle everybody. It makes it easy for that control to be released, because I know with the utmost confidence that they're going to do the very best they can, and that's all I would ever expect of anybody. If you make a mistake, let's just learn from it. Let's not focus on the negativity of it. Let's just learn from it and move forward. But all I ask is that you give me your best.
Let's have you start to mentally prepare to answer the next question in the in the interim, I'm gonna pull a couple of nuggets out of what you just shared. The next question is going to be around where do you find those people to build the awesome team? And before you answer that, the first thing that I want to make sure everybody gleaned from what Caleb just said that is critically important is that he treats his team, and it's so evident. It's just, I mean, I've spent 3 days with his team in one of our workshops. It's so evident that he treats his team as his #1 customer. And when you do that, you're modeling for your team exactly what you're asking them to do for your realtors and your clients. So that is one of the principal rules of leadership is you first need to go to a level of depth and caring for the people that work for you if you want them then that same thing to your customers and clients. And there's a really great Simon Sinek, you guys are very familiar with him within this forum and in this community and family. His leadership one, not to start with why, but his leadership TED Talk really, really does a wonderful job of displaying that. The second thing that I want to point out to everyone, and then I'm going to toss it to you, Caleb, for the answer to the next question is, you know, he knows his numbers so well. And I remember a coaching call that we had, I don't know, Caleb, it was probably about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. And we were focusing on what could we do to really take it from the low to mid 20s up into the 30s and 40s. And you knew your numbers back and forth, and what you knew and what was acutely evident was that there were too many pre-approvals and leads that were not being converted because there simply wasn't the ability for you to convert them because your team couldn't facilitate all that volume. And that required such enormous trust on your part to say, you know what, I'm going to take this leap of faith, I'm going to build another funnel, I'm going to hire 2 more people. And I'm very confident that if I hire 2 more people and do the right things and discipline myself to staying focused on what I do best, which is talking to people who need to borrow money, that I will be able to support those 2 extra people and fill that second funnel by going after the people I just have not had the time to doggedly follow up on. And the point that I'm trying to make in that is this, is that if you want to confront your fear, you have to know your numbers. If you do the analytics and you break it down, it makes it so much easier to confront that fear because you can see the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. He knew back and forth that here's where I'm leaving money on the table. If I just had more time and I had the capacity to facilitate that business, there's a whole chunk of change that's being left out there that I'm not taking advantage of. But had he not known his numbers and not been able to do the analytics and look at his business as a true businessman, he wouldn't have been able to make those executive decisions to take the plunge and grow his team even further. Feel free to comment on that, and please also additionally tell about how you've grown your team, where you found these people, and how you've onboarded them to give them a very strong probability of being that A-plus player for you.
Sure. Okay, that's a lot, so I'm going to do my best to address all of it. I'm going to start with your immediate point, and then I'll circle back to the question on where you find it. So one of the things I'm a very, very firm believer in, because I think this is the best way to handle it, is I firmly believe you have to build capacity ahead of demand. Because if you try to simply catch the capacity up with demand, you create a horrible experience for everybody that would be involved. So for example, if you say, I'm going to go make it rain loans and I'm going to have all this business, well, then you get to be guilty of, there's an originator in my market who used to dominate our market. Like he was the guy in town. And he lost that top slot because he got too busy and got the reputation of not being able to follow up with his clients and his referral partners in a timely fashion. And this was a gentleman who was doing a really good business. That really hit home for me in the sense of I said, I'm going to build it 1 loan at a time. I'm going to put the people in place ahead of trying to go out and crank up the wheel, because I don't want to sound arrogant. It's not that hard to crank up the wheel in terms of what we do if you focus on the excellence and making sure that you do a great job to provide that great experience for your clients' referral partners. People want somebody who's going to take great care of them. I mean, if you focus on delivering that to them, you'll have the business. But what you need to do is make sure that you've built that in so that they have a wonderful experience when they come on. What you don't want to be doing is, we have too many loans this month, I can't really get you to do a great job, but here's kind of a half-forced effort. So I really think you got to build a capacity ahead of demand and invest and have faith in yourself that you're going to be able to go out and make it happen. If you can't, then that's never going to work out. So you just need to have the confidence in yourself. In terms of finding the team, I've been very blessed in the sense of, I've never really put out an ad or anything like that. I've always been able to do it internally. So Kelly was a client of mine, and I think it's really neat. Think about a loan and how stressful it is. You get to see somebody at the point of highest disruption in their life, short of a death in the family or medical issue. If you think about it, they're having to take on a part-time job and getting a loan with all the documentation that goes into it. Their life is in complete disarray with moving and everything else. So watching how they perform in that environment is a wonderful opportunity for an interview. So I've had very good luck in hiring past clients, and then I've also had incredible luck with the team is now attracting A players of when we're right now actively interviewing for another position against, hey, this is what we feel we need. So now let's go find it, and remember, they're going to be supporting you, so let's make sure we get a great person. They're really emotionally and financially invested in making sure that we bring great players on board, because it would just hurt us as a team and as a unit for that not to be the case. So I don't think attracting great talent is that hard if you created an environment where great talent wants to work. But one of the things I thought was really neat, and I read a lot because I really like finance and leadership and management and all that. I forget exactly where the study was, but they were focused on what was the top 5 things that somebody wants out of their job in a work environment. A lot of people think compensation is one of the top ones. It was actually like number 5, or even maybe even lower on the list. Almost everybody really wants a place where they can feel like they're making a difference, like their opinion is heard, where they're appreciated. So building an environment like that, you'll be amazed at the talent you can attract. And the great news is when the talent shows up, then the volume should catch up from the originator standpoint and making sure that you pay those folks truly what they're worth. Now, I'd like to think that the team is very well compensated for the level of effort they put forth, but that's taking care of itself with the business that we've been able to sustain and grow and handle.
So to pull a nugget out there for everyone to synthesize that even further is like, boy, what a powerful statement that, first you have to build an environment that would attract A-plus players. If you don't, then you're not going to keep them very long, and you can actually make somebody who has the capability and potentiality to be an A-plus player a B-minus player by plugging them into an environment that is not supportive, that is not fluid, that is not uplifting, that is not organized and systemized. So take a look at that. If you continually seem to be attracting B-minus people onto your team, it could be that your environment is fostering or bringing them down would be a better way of saying it, bringing them down to that level. And it's a part of leadership is to take an honest look at what you can be doing to up-level the quality of the experience for your employees. I mean, that mentality of making them your first customer is really important. In the a little follow-up to that, Caleb, and maybe you can give a snapshot of this. In our master's program, everybody's working on 3 massive impact goals in their business and their life at all times. And I know that in the last 6-month period, you had that 1 meg that you executed fully, and it was around building out the job descriptions, interview processes, etc. for your team. How important is that? Obviously you feel it was important because you spent a lot of time on it, but give us a little bit of an idea as to why it's really important to have all of that really organized and dialed in, which is something that loan originators typically aren't really very good at because they haven't had a lot of experience in kind of the human resources aspect of the business.
Yeah, so that really came out of frustration for myself in the sense of I knew I had tremendous people, but I felt like I was still being pulled in too much. And some of that is, trying to let that control and fear side of myself subside. And it's never going to be gone. It's just something I'm going to have to constantly work on. But the job descriptions I felt was important because what it was doing was basically helping outline the what in terms of what is this expected of this position. And both in this is what the minimum standard is, this is what we really need from this position, and then here would be the ideal version of it. So the minimum standard is saying, look, this is what we really need from you. Do you feel comfortable in being able to commit and handling this? It's giving that partner clarity of this is what I need from you. Can you deliver on this? And if you can't, then let's discuss what would prevent you from being able to facilitate that. And if it's within my power to control, I want to fix that because I really want to help you be that best version of yourself. From a self-serving standpoint, that benefits me, but it also is something that I get a lot of joy out, which is seeing those members of my team really grow and mature and become the best version of themselves. Because for me, it's really neat to do that with a small group of committed people. You'd be amazed at what you can accomplish in the world with that. So those job descriptions was helpful to get that conversation started, because what it felt like, and I'm guilty of this, I mean, by no means, you're seeing me now in my 10th year in the business. If we rewound the clock, back 8 years ago, I was probably like what most originators, which is, I got too much, I need bodies, jump in and go work. And so it was, okay, this didn't work that well, so every partner I've onboarded on my team, I've tried to make sure what didn't go well. Okay, great. How can I do a better job the next time we bring somebody on board to make sure that that experience they have when they join us is better than what you had, and also eliminate those little issues that come up so that we can all become a better version of what we're capable of.
So again, extracting, like, boy, I just hope you took this note, really, really important. Creating a minimum standard and a clarity of communication with your staff of, this is what we're shooting for, this is the outcome we're looking for here. Can you commit to executing on that outcome on each and every transaction? And if not, what can I be doing to better assist you as my number one client in Caleb's eyes at being fully capable of executing on this minimum standard, and then collaboratively discussing how can we even up-level that? Like, how can we not just meet the minimum standard, but how can we exceed it on a consistent basis? And let's get curious with that, and let's, as a team, figure that part out. So let's transition now to more of knowledge-based and financial-based discussion. So you mentioned a little earlier that you're formerly a CPA. You're a young guy, so you didn't exactly have this CPA practice for an extended period of time. One of the things that I know from just having gotten to know you is that, Caleb and I will do a lot of ideating in our coaching calls on scripting. He'll even bring his team sometimes onto our coaching call, and we'll work on his team scripting. And one of the filters that he runs every script through is this passionate conviction that it must be clean, it must not be self-serving, it must not be salesy, it must be with the customer's best interest first and foremost in mind. And as a result of that, I know that you have become very passionate over the last several years about making sure that you are providing outstanding and phenomenal advice to your clients. And you utilize the total cost analysis and the mortgage coach to do just that, which is something that those of you who are really old and have known me for a long time know that, like, I never ever did a transaction with anybody ever without first providing them with a TCA, because to me it would be malpractice, for lack of a better term. So Caleb, talk to us a little bit about that. And I think that you've got some slides that you're going to be able to share and give some examples with that.
I think it's super important that you do a total cost analysis for every client. I mean, I think you're doing your client a disservice if you're not doing that, because I firmly believe approaching my practice from a place of education, it's not salesy. I wouldn't say I'm the best salesperson in the world. There are people who are more engaging with clients, but one of the things I always wanted to make sure was that I was authentic with clients. In that moment, knowing everything I know about them, I wanted to give them the very best advice that I was capable of giving, to make sure that they were making the best decision for their finances, for what is going to be their largest indebtedness. I don't care who you're dealing with. There are very few clients for whom their mortgage isn't their largest debt that they're going to take on, and making sure that I had an opinion that was worthy of, of that advice. So spending a lot of time in making sure that I had the financial knowledge and background, even coming from an accounting background. I can tell you, as an accountant, doing tax returns for very affluent individuals, they don't teach you how to handle mortgages in accounting school. So getting an education there and learning how to really make sure I understood money, understood assets and debts on the balance sheet, and having that opinion worth having, a client want to come listen to, is what facilitated. And just staying authentic, I can honestly say I've never looked at a loan from a monetary standpoint of, well, this loan would make me more money. I always went into it, I will do what's best for the client. And then if that happens to be a more profitable loan, fabulous. If it doesn't, that's okay. I want to make sure that I sleep really well at night, because I was treating them fairly and accurately and authentically in that moment and giving them the best advice I was capable of. You treat them just like I would a mom, a dad, a brother, or sister coming in and saying, hey, you're the professional, you're the expert here, what should I do?
So Caleb, I want to jump in, and Tim, let's go back and forth, because this advice piece, I mean, not only do you know it because you were an advisor when you built your practice around providing advice and insight. Of course, I think you're a pretty rare breed. You were probably one of the best salespeople who was also a teacher. I mean, you always crushed it, and you had that gift. But given that you know Caleb so well, please let's keep going back and forth on this. So Caleb, let's break down the market that you serve as an advisor. You know, what is your average loan amount? I have your production up here. I know you did 305 loans last month, but what's your average loan amount? And what are some of the most common types of families that you're serving?
Yeah, so my average loan size is $192,000 and some change. The average price point or purchase price for our market is $162,000. So my typical client is what I would describe as middle America. So average income per household per person for our market is $36,000 and change. So a mom and a dad as a married couple is usually knocking down $70,000 to $75,000. So we're very much in that middle America niche. We have some affluent clients. We do some jumbo stuff. It wouldn't be what I would say is our normal practice. We're right in that thick middle where you've got clients who they have the cash flow, they can service the debt, they maybe have a little money saved up, and they really need help. And okay, hey, look, let's make a smart decision with how we go about this to really put this mortgage together in a way that would help serve you. I really want to make sure that they leave better for having met me and sat down and spoke. Even if we don't do a loan together, I'm okay with, I want to make sure I serve you and I give you great advice. I think if you come at it from that point, the rest will take care of itself by and large. At least that's been true for myself.
How long is the typical consultation with the family when you're, asking questions and coming back with advice? How much time are we talking about?
So our process, the client would call in from referral base. We would get the initial application, and then Melissa, who's my approval partner on the front end, gets them scheduled. We try to get them scheduled within 24 to 48 hours to come in and sit with me. Our average time on that consultation is usually about 45 to 60 minutes. What I'll do in preparation for that is I will run a total cost analysis for loan options, payment ranges. We'll go prepare closing costs. I'll review credit and income and asset docs if they're available prior to that appointment. And then we sit down and go, okay, here's what we can do with this loan. And sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes it's just, this is what you can qualify for, and this is all you can really afford, and let's make sure we're making a good decision and not over-leveraging your household. For some other clients, it maybe one of the things that's been happening in our market lately, we're up 13.2% from an appreciation standpoint year over year, which is really strong because our average appreciation is usually about 3.96 or 4%. We've got clients for whom we did loans 2 or 3 years ago that are coming back and going, hey, I've got 50, 60 grand in equity all of a sudden. What can we do with this? They're looking to move and just maybe even just move across the street. What can we do to improve our position here, which is, it's been a lot of fun.
Love it. And what percentage of the families come into your office, versus you're helping over the phone with presence of internet?
So we've got a pretty strong conversion in terms of face-to-face meetings. I'm a very firm believer in that. So our conversion rate for a face-to-face appointment is 74%. Then the remainder would be, email or a phone consultation with the Edge Live product, which is really cool. I mean, I've won loans just because I've done a phone consultation with that Edge Live product up, and they're like, "This is really slick." So, to any originator, I would say you're leaving yourself vulnerable if you're not making sure that you are delivering a wonderful experience and that you haven't really honed your presentation skills. That's the sales aspect of this. It's making sure you've invested in the tools, make sure you're good with them, and know how to use them, because just that experience, because we all pretty much have the same products, the same rates, the same fees. I mean, that's become very homogenous in the last 4 or 5 years. So it goes to the service, the presentation, the deliverability, the experience that you're going to deliver to that client that'll win the day. I mean, nothing alone other than I send them a total cost analysis and walk them through it. They go, "You're awesome. We're going to close with you." I'm going like, "Great. I didn't really feel like I did that much, but that's awesome."
So again, that's, I think, the magic. Every time I interview a top-performing originator, they have a process. They're delivering a consistent experience. Obviously, in mortgage coach land, they're using the total cost analysis to deliver the advice, whether it's in person or Edge Live. For anybody who doesn't know what Edge Live or Mortgage Coach Live is, there's lots of information in our support page. Not going to get into details around the technology because I think we have such a special opportunity right now to really drill down on a couple reports. So what percentage of your families and your borrowers are first-time buyers versus move-up buyers? Or
so of that 305 loans we closed last year, right at 28% were first-time buyers, and the rest were either move-up or move-down buyers. So my market's a little unique in the sense that I got the downsizing boomers retiring to our area from up north and coming back from Florida. So we've got a lot of clientele that are moving here because we're a cost-saving play compared to those markets. But we've also got a very healthy job market. So we've got a lot of those, and I hate using this word, but I'm going to, millennials that are moving to our market to take advantage of our job market. So we're very fortunate. We serve both ends of that market. Is a big chunk of what we serve.
Well, first of all, Tim, I just, every time he says a number, it's like this precise, exact number for every metric in his business. So it's pretty cool. Make a note.
I was
everybody
embarrassed
on the
when
call.
Tim started asking me, 3 years ago. I didn't know the numbers. You can't make decisions without them. It's just like, by God, I'm tracking this stuff, and we're going to figure this out.
No, it's awesome. So, folks, let's break down a few things, and then Caleb, let's get ready to go into a couple total cost analysis. Because in my preparation, whenever I meet top performers, there's always things that I think are consistent with other top performers, and there's always things that I'm just like, wow, this is where you're really genius. So I want to break down a few things for everybody. First of all, make note of the overall success he has. Make note that he is serving, whether you call it low income, middle America. And every single family he's serving is getting a total cost analysis. By the way, you mentioned your conversion when someone comes into your office. I think you said 74%. What is it when they're not in your office, just so we kind of have a contrast to that? What's your conversion go down to?
In sense of, like, do they close or not?
Yeah, well, whatever the conversion number you says, when they come into my office, we have a 74% conversion rate.
So to be clear on that,
is it lower
out of 100 people that apply, we will meet with 74 of those on average.
Got it. That was
so our net conversion ratio, from application, just a raw lead, to a closed loan is 39%, which that's up quite a bit, and a lot of that's a large thanks to Tim. He put his finger right on that number and going like, you're right. It wasn't, I don't need to get more partners. I just need to focus on, I just need to do a better job of following up and converting the business I had. Because prior to that, we were down in like the 22% conversion rate. So we really got super focused on what do we need to do to move this number, and we really were clear that the face-to-face consultation gave us the highest percentage conversion from if they come in and they meet face-to-face, the value we can provide in that face-to-face consultation will typically yield a more successful conversion to a closed loan. So we're really focused on, we want to get them face-to-face, belly-to-belly, do an amazing job of giving the very best advice I'm capable of, and then letting the rest of the team and the partners, because I'm not really super good at follow-up. I'm embarrassed to say that's not something that's really a skill set of mine. I can do it, but it requires a lot of focus. So letting Samantha then step in as a production partner to really give them that love and that attention that they need during that contract process, and staying as the expert on, look, I'm the numbers guy. I can crunch those 6 ways to Sunday, and then letting those partners that help serve the rest of them to fill in the needs of the emotional aspect for the clients.
I think, Dave, can I just jump in real quick? 2 things. One is just for everybody's understanding, when he throws out those numbers of conversion, to the extent that in any way they sound low to you, I want to make sure everybody's clear that he's counting everything. Like, if you have a heartbeat and a pulse and you fill out an online application or inquire in some abstract way that you might be interested in borrowing money, he's counting them. So those numbers are super accurate and not in any way skewed. And then the second thing is, what he just said right there is so important for everybody, is that Caleb has done a masterful job in the last 2.5 years. And those of you that remember, I did a presentation back, I don't know, about 1.5 years ago with Dave on, the four quadrant grid that is the genius zone, and he's really spending a significant percentage of his time now in his unique genius, which is that face-to-face consultative time, crunching the numbers. That's what he does well. And when he talks about like hiring somebody like Melissa to do the touch point, warm and fuzzy follow-up to try to retain as many of those pre-approvals and leads as possible, it's because he's identified that that's a high payoff activity, but not one that comes natural to him. And this is a part of the art form of growing your business, is getting crystal clear as to what your unique gift is and spending as much time in it as possible, and then building a team of people around you who possess the unique gifts of the things that you're not an expert at. So just wanted to really kind of clear that for everybody so they could get a real feel for how this is evolving for him.
Beautiful. Well, let's jump into a couple strategies, because this is, talk about genius zone. In my prep with you, my interview with you, it just became so clear at how you're a master at asking questions. understanding options, understanding guidelines, putting together numbers and information, and then putting those together in a way that, it's an incredibly valuable presentation for the family. And I think for all the mortgage coaches on today's call, they'll get something hearing you walk through a couple samples. So if you could tell us the story around what we're looking at, and then, walk us through the strategy of what you heard from the client and then what you presented to them.
Sure. So this was a client. He was an engineer at GE. He makes about $275,000 a year, and this was a house that was going to be his home that he was going to be in for 20 years. Basically, the house before he goes out, toes up type of thing. So the benefit in looking at this structure with him was he was hell bent on doing a 15-year loan, which that's fine. We talked about 30 versus 15. It was important to him to have a 15-year note and pay it off before he retired, and that's not a problem. They had made a fairly large sum of money off of the sale of their home, and so they were going to put that money towards the down payment. And so going back to Dave, I think this is a different screen here. That other slide, the 15 versus the one that has a point.
Is this
no,
the
it's
one?
one more. I think it's one more tab over.
This one?
Yeah, that would be the one. Yes, sir. So that was the one that we were looking at. And so what we did for him was we just said, look, over 15 years, you're not going to earn back that down payment. So if we look at column 1 and column 2 there, he was looking at putting 50% down versus putting 20% down. The difference in cash there is basically $120,000. So for $120,000 invested today, it's going to yield you $21,000 in total savings over the entire 15 years. At the end of 15 years, you're still going to have the same result. The mortgage is going to be paid off. So, talking to the client was, if I told you had a wonderful investment, you give me $120,000 today, and in 15 years I'll give you back 21 grand, how would you feel about that? You'd be like, that's really not that awesome, and it's not. A 15-year note, you're paying on average 32 to 36 cents on the dollar, pre-tax any tax write-off. With this low-rate environment, it doesn't make sense for a lot of clients to tie up a ton of cash or capital in a home, especially if they have other debts on their balance sheet. Now, in this case, this gentleman was, very, very qualified. So our conversation centered around, what if we did something different with that difference in cash, and get serious about, really making sure retirement's fully funded and that you're in the best position for that. And helping him look at the numbers here, he realized what a small difference it was, because the monthly payment was easily absorbed. He could carry the difference in monthly payment, no problem. It was highest and best use of the dollar, and that focused conversation with him. And then we talked about, paying points versus not paying points, and really helped drive that home for him of that's a waste of money on a 15-year for sure.
And how do you work with, other financial advisors, other CPAs? How often are you integrating them into the conversation and getting referrals from them in exchange?
So that's an area of weakness in my practice. I'm a little embarrassed to say. It's one of the things I've been focused on for the last 15 months. So we've got 2 really top-shelf financial advisors that are the super heavy hitters in our market that are really good at what they do, and it's easy to hand those clients off to those type of individuals when there's opportunity. So that's an example of, that's maybe about 10 to 15% of my practice is that type of client. So it's not like I have hundreds and hundreds of clients each year that walk in with 6 figures that they're ready to invest. That's not an atypical client for me. We have enough of them that there's an opportunity to refer back to a financial advisor and help feed that individual's practice, but a lot of it is just that financial advisor is also looking for somebody to refer his clients to that will make him look good, and also his pipeline insurance. I don't have a wealth management division that I'm referring clients to, so he's excited to make sure that his clients are well taken care of with somebody that understands finance that won't be soliciting that client to move their assets to a different location.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And just to interject for just a second, like if that sounded somewhat familiar to you, it may be that you've listened to some interviews from Craig Strent, which I know you've had him in your.
I totally stole that from Craig. Craig's got that mastered.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. I mean, these 2 guys are starting to work together. They're they're in the same program with us, and like Craig's teaching Caleb some things, and Caleb's teaching Craig some things. So I fully expect, Dave, that if you interview Caleb a year from now, that you're going to find that he's doing a highly effective job of taking advantage of those opportunities and referring out to financial advisors, because that's on his dashboard big time right now. Is kind of the next level for him in his business.
Yeah, no doubt. It makes a lot of sense. And by the way, folks, I'm going to put a link to how to get referrals from financial planners with Craig Strent, an interview that I did in the past. Actually, I did it in July of 2015, so that will be in chat. So I think this is another.
Go back to that first one. Yeah, this is one I really want to share, because this is a great middle America example. So this is just something of, so this is a client that just sold a house. they were coming in just wanting a plain Jane 20% down mortgage. So this is a great example. These are millennial clients. They're in their mid-20s, and they've got, you know, a house payment and some student loans. Nothing super amazing. They had about 40 grand in student loan debt. So what I did here was I said, hey guys, look, instead of let's put 20% down on the loan, let's look at putting 10% down. We do a single finance MI loan. That difference in monthly payment is not that tremendous. It's $120. Really, it came out to be $117 a month exactly. What that now gave us was $22,500 that we could then turn and go put on their balance sheet. What we did with that, or what we are going to do with that, because they're actively in process, is pay off 3 of their largest student loans. The debt obligation or debt service for that alone on a monthly cash flow basis was $365. So even taking into account the difference in the housing obligation, the household was positive something like $250-ish or something like that on a positive monthly basis, which they were then going to snowball that to pay off the rest of their student loans. So in 15 months, just by simply reallocating the down payment to wipe out other household bills and freeing up monthly cash flow, they will be completely debt-free of all their student loans. They'll be paid off and left with just a mortgage payment. And this is a family that's making, you know, right at $90,000 a year. So this is the kind of impact and difference you can make, and this is the type of stuff that really gets me excited. Like, I tend to start talking faster when I get excited about things, so I'm trying to consciously tell myself to slow down right now. But that's the part that really gets me going. It's really fun because they came in just expecting to get a mortgage and gave them something that made a huge difference in their life. So wiping out those student loans gave them back $1,196 a month that they now can go fully fund retirement for their young one. They just had a little one. You know, whatever they want to do with it, they've got that cash flow back, and all we did was just move the numbers around on the mortgage, and this enabled us to show them why that was not a horrible approach, because they weren't even earning back the down payment over that 10-year window. You can see the difference between column 1 and column 4 is roughly about $6,000 in interest expense for the difference to keep $22,500 liquid, reallocate that to other debts on the balance sheet, and leave them in such a better position financially. It's just super fun. I mean, like, if that doesn't light you up as an originator, you may be in the wrong career.
I love everything you said. So, folks, let's think about that. So, this family came in to get a mortgage. They would have gone to most loan officers, got the 20% loan with no MI, because that's what loan officers sell. In this particular case, you looked at their needs, you looked at their issue. They had $1,100 and how much in student loan debt on a monthly basis?
So they had about $40,000 total in student loans, and that monthly obligation was $1,196.
So $1,196, you were able to provide an option that lowered their monthly payment, took the same amount of cash, capitalized some of it towards down payment, some of it towards paying off student loans, reduced their monthly cash flow by $300 and some odd. Everybody, you heard that term snowball. He was able to, say, look, if we took that extra money, apply it towards the student loans, and they'd be, still have a mortgage, but in Dave Ramsey's perspective, they would have that student debt paid off in, I think you said 18 months?
Yeah, so in 18 months, they were going to be debt-free with everything except for the mortgage paid off. They'd have that $1,196 they've been using for debt servicing of the student loans back and available. And for them, it would be much more important to save for future retirement, with their little one planning for college with the retirement planning or college plan there, and easily out-earning the cost of the mortgage. Like, I'm a firm believer in equity separation in the current market, and I realize you'll have clients that they don't believe in it, and that's okay. I've always viewed my job as to show you all the options, let you make an educated and informed decision, and then I've done my fiduciary duty to you as a client. At the end of the day, it's your mortgage. You're going to be making the payment. I just want to make sure you're comfortable and made the best decision you're capable of making with all the information I can bring to the table to give you the best advice and opinion available to make that decision.
So this has been a fantastic interview. I do want to, Steve Harney, if you're back on the call, well, I don't think we'll have time to do 10 minutes of going through your slides. First of all, Steve, are you back on the call?
Yeah, I am back on the call, and I will be honest with you. What Tim and Caleb delivered today was so much better than what I was going to deliver. I'm kind of glad I got knocked off at the beginning. I really, really enjoyed listening to it. Anyone who's doing, any business person, I don't care what industry you're in, could have listened to the first 25 minutes of that call and learned so much. It was really amazing, Caleb. You're a sensational, young professional, and I learned so much listening to you. It was tremendous. As far as what I was going to cover, Dave, to be honest with you, it was basically there's some fear out there right now because there's a misunderstanding. Everyone, just take a look at the slides. The slides are self-explanatory. Dave is great to go ahead and put that up there. So look at the slides. The slides will be able to help you. You can pick out some of those slides and help you through that. We don't have to go through them, David. But I will say this, and the thing that I was most impressed with, and Tim, you did a phenomenal job of grabbing the golden nuggets out. The way you interviewed that was phenomenal.
Thank you.
But listen to what we heard today. What we heard is a young man building a tremendous business because he's a servant to his people that work with him, to every single client that walks in there. He puts himself in a position where he cares more about the person sitting in front of him than he does about himself. And the fact that he's even on this call means he cared more about the people on this call and educating them and helping them understand than he did about his production for that hour. So, you know, when we talk about servant leadership, that term is very often used and very often misunderstood. Caleb is an actual living example of servant leadership, and I can't tell you how much I learned, Caleb. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And so, Tim, you had a question or a comment you wanted to bring up?
I was just going to say that was about as well articulated as I could ever conjure up. Thank you for sharing that. That was really, really amazing. I would just say in closing, just like the last thing, would just to pull another nugget, was take note of the scripting, guys. Take note of it. It's tight, it's rhythmic, it's confident, it's fluid, and it's most definitely not self-serving. You're going to win a lot of clients if you've got your presentation down, you've woven in the tool of total cost analysis, and you've really taken the time to analyze and assess like every sentence of what you say, and you're repetitive with it, because then you get really good at it, really polished. And that's why he's so successful, and his business is going to continue to grow, because he's very tight in his presentation. And as he said, you know, mastering the tools of the trade, with the mortgage coach being at the top of the list, is been one of the real backbones of his growth. So I'm just really happy that I was able to be on this call today. It was to me, Dave, this is one of the great ones. I'd love to have a copy of it, please. I want to send it out to everybody in the 360 family. Will be awfully proud, because they all know Caleb very well, and they're going to be really happy for him. So
I want a copy of that because I want my leadership team to listen to it. It was phenomenal. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's been a fantastic call. So we've only got a couple minutes, but the word scripting keeps coming up. And, you know, there is some scripting that you say before you deliver a TCA to a family, whether it's in person or you're sending them a link. You know, if you say the right thing for 30 seconds to a minute, it has more value than they get it. And then there's, you know, the first 30 seconds to a minute of how you start the total cost analysis conversation, it has impact. So Caleb, let's, you know, in a minute, like, I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want you to like be in elevator pitch mode, but if you could just give us a feel for, you know, what do you say as you're getting ready to deliver that TCA, you know, to the family? You know, give us some perspective of what that might sound like.
So I started off with, you know, let's start with the big wonderful world of mortgages and what your options are. We're going to narrow it down as to how it specifically applies to you. Because we all tend to think of our clients and consumers as different than ourselves, and what you'll find is they all have pretty much the same fears and want the same thing in a transaction you would. So when I got my first mortgage, the thing I wanted to make sure was that I wasn't missing any options. So a lot of times I'll start with the big picture and we narrow it down of just, look, here's all the options and here's what they would have been. So they feel like that itch has been scratched of, okay, I didn't miss anything. So then we narrow it down to, here's what makes sense for you, and here's why we're doing this, and here's where you can see this benefits you the most. So there's no sales aspect of it. It's just leading them to the logical conclusion based upon educating them about what the choices are. They feel complete in that decision of going, okay, I've seen the options. I had enough information, not overwhelming them, because, I mean, there's a lot of presentation tools that you can use that get too deep in the weeds, and you give them too much and they can't make a decision. I think mortgage coach does a wonderful job of enough meat that they feel confident in the decision, but not so much as you overwhelm them, and then just walking them through the rest of it so that they reinforce that decision as to why they made that decision, why it was a good choice. So that's how I lead into the total cost analysis, not face-to-face.
And do you refer to it as a total cost analysis, or do you have a different term that you use?
No, I say total cost analysis because just from a simple presentation standpoint, you know, not everybody's talking about loan estimates and closing disclosures and 1003s, and it's all foreign language to them. So, Mr. and Mrs. Dave, one of the things I'm going to help you when you work with me is I'm going to give you a total cost analysis. I'm going to help you focus on getting the lowest total cost loan, because what you really care about at the end of the day was what was the least expensive payment and least expensive loan over your time of ownership. I'm going to help you make that decision. And that's what I do.
Boom. So folks, while I recognize you listened to the whole interview, we got some great scripting here in the last minute or two. So, I mean, this call has been fantastic in every way. I mean, we've got really tactical, we've got really strategic, and we've obviously got to know an amazing mortgage leader in our industry. So real quick, Tim, if anybody wants to get a hold of Tim Braheem or Tim, what's the best way for them to reach out to you, learn more about your services and more about how you mentor and coach loan officers?
Yeah, thank you. Just here's my email address, tbraheem@gmail. tbraheem@gmail.com, and we're in the depths of interviewing candidates for the next Leadership 360 group, and would love to speak with you about it if it's something that you'd like to inquire and learn more about. So just shoot me an email and we can set up a call together.
Love it. So reach out to Tim with questions. Also, as I said earlier, there was a number of videos that I have posted. Make sure you check those out. Please let us know what you thought of today's call on a scale of good to great. If you're a guest to this call and you want to get a demo of Mortgage Coach and learn more, answer that last option. But hopefully this has been a valuable hour for everyone. We are committed to being here for you every single Tuesday to provide inspirational leadership. And then on Wednesdays, we're teaching you how to use your mobile device more strategically with Mortgage Coach. On Thursdays, it's all tactical. All of the scenarios that Caleb went through, if you want to learn how to do those or you have questions, come to our Thursday training. And every single day of the week, we are doing some type of live, interactive training at Mortgage Coach. Best way to keep up on what we're doing is go to our website, click on our calendar. That calendar is updated every week. And usually we've got about a 3 to 4 week ramp. This call has been recorded. So if anyone on the call does not subscribe to our YouTube channel, highly recommend that you do subscribe to it, but it will be posted within a few hours. So this call is adjourned, and thank you for your time, everybody. And Caleb, we're going to have you back and just do a whole call on Caleb's scripts. And I also like the idea of possibly bringing in your team members and really drilling down on your educational sales process. It's been an honor, brother.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. And Steve, sorry we had a technical glitch, but we'll get you back in soon. And Tim,
like I said,
always,
what I heard was much better than what I was going to deliver. So God had a hand in that. God had a hand in that.
Thanks a lot, everybody, and Steve. It was really nice to meet you.
Same here,
Take
Tim.
care.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.